This is Singapore, a swarming modern metropolis. Millions live on top of one another. Business as usual. But as the sun sets, mere mortals go home. Only the bravest, the best, come out to play. Who's afraid of the dark? The ultimate test in extrasensory perception at 200 miles per hour. Don't be blinded by the light. Trust your car, trust yourself, and commit. As the sun rises, Singapore will return to its daily routine. A little tired after a broken night's sleep, but it will have lived. And this is no dream.
And as you can see, this is a city that's wide awake at the moment. And if any local resident did fancy an early night, trust me, in under an hour's time, when 24 Formula One cars are flying along this tarmac in qualifying, they won't be asleep for long. It's just gone 9 p.m. local time. Welcome to live qualifying for the Singapore Grand Prix, round 15 of a truly electric season. And this is a race weekend like no other. The Italian sun lit up Monza 2 weeks ago. Well, here the job is done by 1,600 lights strung out above this tight, twisty track as Formula One goes nocturnal amongst the high rollers and the high buildings of a city that just loves being under the spotlight. And after tomorrow's race, the attention turns to the more traditional charms of the Japanese Grand Prix before South Korea makes its Formula One debut next month. And talking of debuts, Fernando Alonso had a Sunday to remember a couple of weeks ago as he had the chance to impress in Italy for the first time in front of the Tifosi. And impress, he did.
Button and Alonso got nothing in Belgium 2 weeks ago. They need to get it right here at Monza. With the lights out, and away goes Alonso and Button together. Moves across there, but Button seems to have got the jump on the inside line, then he's in the lead.
Oh, he's been hit from behind, but I think he'll get away with that. It's Ferrari side by side, chaos going up behind, a piece of carbon fibre in the air.
They're wheel to wheel now, Alonso and Massa. This is what Ferrari want.
Isn't that Hamilton right behind them as well? He's had a great start. Look at him right in there with the Ferrari. He's got to be careful that Massa...
Oh, they're coming together there with Lewis Hamilton.
Broken steering arm.
Button is in the pits, which means that Ferrari are leading. And here comes Mark Webber challenging round the outside of Kubica. Webber seems to have got him. What a move there by the Australian.
Alonso pits.
He's got to accelerate away. There is Jenson Button. Here he comes. Has he got ahead of him? Yes, he has. Alonso is now coming through, and Jenson Button is wheel to wheel with him, and it looks like Alonso's got through. There's Hulkenberg from under attack there from Mark Webber.
I think Hulkenberg will have to yield on that one.
Going to have another look surely into the chicane, going on the outside. This is going to be good enough surely for Mark Webber, and he's done it. He'll say it's poetic justice.
When will Vettel come in then? Will it be the last lap? Good stop. Where's his teammate?
He's done it, he's done it. He started 6th and he's looked set for 4th place. It's Forza Ferrari, Forza Fernando. He wins the Italian Grand Prix at Monza and the championship challenge is back on.
The win was impressive. The party afterwards, even better. So Fernando Alonso takes Ferrari's first win in Italy since 2006. In the process, gives his title ambitions a real shot in the arm. Jensen's second place means the top 5 are now separated by just 24 points. The winner here tomorrow picks up 25. In the constructors' battle, Ferrari will need to work hard to catch the dominant forces of Red Bull and McLaren, but it's now very much a three-way battle for the constructors' honours. Well, Eddie Jordan, here we are then. It's gone 9 o'clock, it's almost past our bedtime, yet here we are about to go racing. It feels very strange, but for some reason it really works, doesn't it?
It absolutely works. I mean, what Singapore has done has been remarkable. They were in competition with New York and Hong Kong to have that other, if you like, road race. They got it, and they've done an unbelievable job. The interesting thing, Jake, about here in particular, Monaco may be the glamorous race of the championship, but the business centre is absolutely here. Every chief executive worth its salt is here doing business in this particular territory as we speak. It's a phenomenal place.
And how are your deals going this weekend then?
My deal is exclusively with the BBC. What would you expect me to say?
And that, my friend, is the perfect answer. David, Singapore have actually done a great deal by Formula One, actually. They've brought Formula One to this place and they've put on an incredible show. And actually, it feels like in 2010, they'll get their rewards, actually.
Well, indeed, they've got a situation where we've got 5 drivers in the battle for the championship, 5 races to go. So this really represents the start of this run-in for the championship. They've done an amazing job setting this racetrack up, and the drivers really love driving here. You know, this challenge of being under artificial light is not the big challenge for the drivers. It's a track, and it's proving to really push them to the edge.
You had a good finish here. Did you enjoy driving under the lights?
This was physically one of the more tough circuits on the calendar. I had a walk after they finished that race in 2008. You know, with a safety car around here, you can be in the car for almost 2 hours. So physically, it's very demanding. And what's very telling, after practice this morning, a lot of the drivers were coming out of the car, sitting down, or going directly into the aircon because they're just overheating.
Okay, well, it's a big weekend then for the drivers, a big weekend for Formula One, and a big qualifying session coming up as well. Fernando Alonso has described qualifying here as 90% of the race weekend, because it's not easy to overtake round here. So all of the front runners will hope to write the headlines on the circuit, but there are plenty of headlines being written off the tarmac as well. Here's Ted Kravitz.
As the championship race intensifies, there are traces of paranoia starting to set in at Red Bull, following what Sebastian Vettel thought was a loss of power at Monza. In fact, it was the brakes catching, but Vettel got onto the radio to ask the team if they had done something to his car to allow Mark Webber through to score more points. You thought they were slowing you down deliberately at the time?
No, I mean, you know, in the race, obviously, you have high emotions, and you know, I was fighting hard, and then suddenly the car slowed down. So obviously, you know, I think nobody would be too happy in that moment.
Is it not slightly concerning to you that he did have it in his mind that you might have been slowing him down deliberately?
No, I mean, Sebastian knows that there's no way that the team has the ability to do that from the pit lane. So I think inevitably, if you think you're about to retire, there's a bit of frustration in there.
Ferrari are desperate to turn around their Singapore fortunes. In 2 years, the team have never scored a single point at this track. A new diffuser has helped Ferrari close the gap on Red Bull this weekend, but Fernando Alonso lost time in practice yesterday and says one more non-score in the race and his championship will be gone.
If we have 5 podiums in the 5 races, we will be very close to win the title. A DNF or a retirement will be probably the bye-bye of the championship, because there is very short races now to go.
As they try to find more speed on high downforce tracks like Singapore, McLaren debut a new curvy front wing here this weekend. The team is chasing its first Constructors' Championship for 12 years, and Jenson Button admits he needs to improve his qualifying.
That has been my weakness in a few races this year, and it's something that I've been doing a lot of work on in the simulator. This championship is going to be won by consistency, finishing races, reliability, but also finishing on the podium. You know, you have to finish in front of the other 4 competitors.
Meantime, in practice, the turn 10 chicane has attracted criticism. More from Martin Brundle on this coming up, but after Adrian Sutil's crash here in the Force India, Lewis Hamilton hit out at the changes the organisers have made there.
The chicane is probably the worst corner I've ever driven in Formula 1. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, last year was already small, but just now it's just a bit more dangerous.
As we predicted in Monza, Nick Heidfeld is back in F1, replacing Pedro de la Rosa at Sauber. Heidfeld suddenly attracted rather more attention than he's been used to, and brings the number of German drivers in Formula 1 up to 7.
And are you in the car next year?
It's not certain yet. I've signed for this year and the situation is open between Sauber and myself, and I'm talking to several teams.
Well, we'll wait and see what happens there, but we've made our way out to the paddock because that's not the only driver change this weekend. Christian Klein is busy chatting to people in the paddock, no doubt celebrating a return to a race seat in Formula 1 because he's replaced Sakon Yamamoto, who was due to be in the car. Now, we arrived here thinking it would be Bruno Senna, who we can see chatting behind us, and Sakon Yamamoto. So when did you know that you were racing?
Thursday night they told me already that there could be a chance that I'm racing on the weekend here, and then basically Friday lunchtime it was for sure. Obviously I was waiting for this for about 3 or 4 years, and it's great to actually do a whole race weekend and be super busy on the weekend.
Well, Christian, I have to ask you this question. You've scored points with Jaguar at the early stages and indeed with Red Bull. What on earth possessed you to want to do this?
Well, obviously there is no chance at all that we score points with this team or with this car. Obviously I did this job as a test and reserve driver to get back to a race seat. That worked. So the only thing you can, you can show up is on the racetrack. Even with this car, you have to try to beat your teammate to the best as you can. Then hopefully new options come up.
What is the driving experience like in this car? Like physically, first of all, you've not been out on the racetrack because there's no testing. And also just from the driving experience, is it pretty shocking to be that far off the pace?
The car is pretty tough to drive. It's really a battle out there with this car to actually hold it on the track. I haven't been in the car for a long time, only 40 laps this year so far. So coming here to Singapore with this humidity and a street circuit, I was nearly dying yesterday in the free practice.
Don't worry, David did that a couple of years ago. He explained it. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, you can't believe how tough it is. It's nothing compared, to Malaysia, where it's also really hot and humid. It's really tough here.
You've been in and around the team as their reserve driver for most of this season, so you've seen how difficult this car is to drive. Is there a concern that you're not actually going to do your reputation any good, or does the fact that the whole world knows that this Hispania racing car is a bit of a dog actually help you out a bit because there's no pressure?
Well, everybody who works in Formula 1 knows that this car is not the best, and we are on the back of the grid as the other new teams. So you have to start once. The new teams have a difficult year this season. I think they will improve for next year. Hope all 3 of them are there, and you have to go step by step.
OK, Christian, thank you very much. Let's just nick up here and have a quick word with Bruno Senna, who you can see taking on fluid and gearing up for the race. I feel a bit like Martin Brundle here. Bruno, can we just have a very quick word? I know you weren't expecting this, but we thought, as we were nice and close chatting to Christian, we'd come and see you as well. What's it like having all these new teammates coming and going in the team?
For me, it's the same. I mean, as long as they work together well, like the others, it's fine for me. I think it's always getting some different benchmarks to compare ourselves to, and as long as I'm in front of them, it's fine.
Christian was just mentioning how tough it is physically around this racetrack in comparison to others. Obviously a very difficult place for him to make his debut. Has it shocked you, just dealing with the humidity and the challenge of this track?
It is pretty tough. I mean, the humidity is quite high, and you're sweating, but you're not really cooling down. And it's very busy. It's a very busy track. You're all the time either bouncing off the bumps or turning from one side to the other. So it's not very high G, so it's okay. But when you stop in the boxes and the heat comes in, I need to get some ice and some fans very quickly.
But Bruno, I have to ask you, come back to the original question, and that is, this changing of driver, it must be terribly disconcerting because you're hoping your teammate and you are going to bring this car forward, and every time you come to a race, you haven't got a clue who he's going to be. I mean, how can you have any teamwork involved in that?
Well, as I said, it's okay if the teammate is able to work together as a team. Some people are easier to work with, some people are more difficult to work with, but I know the car pretty well now. I can lead my team fairly well. In some ways, it's an advantage to have different people running under the car because they come with different driving styles and they try the car in different ways. So of course it's better to have the consistency of being able to work towards the goal, but in any way we have to deal with what we have, and that's what I do.
But it seems like staying in this car for a whole season is about as difficult as winning the World Drivers' Championship in Hispania. Next year, the team will be here. You will be here?
I suppose so. I plan to be in the grid, and we see what comes for next year in the next few months.
OK, Bruno, thank you very much indeed, and thanks for allowing us to bother you so close to qualifying. Good luck today. All right, no problem. He's a cool customer, isn't he? And actually, it's interesting to talk about teammates with Bruno, because it was on the track in Germany when Ferrari swapped their cars that we started to talk about the fact that, of course, you've got teammates looking to do the best by themselves in what is effectively a team sport, an issue that David Coulthard knows all about.
It's not just on the racetrack that team orders can play a part. Right from the very first design phase, which driver is used as a template to mould the chassis, which driver gets to test the car for the first time, which engine is put in which car. It can be something subtle, like where the chief designer goes when the cars are both in the garage. It can be something more obvious, like a new part arriving in the garage and going on the other car rather than your car. So many decisions that are taken by a team influence the psyche and the confidence of the driver when he goes out on track. If you feel that the other driver is being favoured in the team, then this can have a really negative effect on your performance. You start to think about that rather than using all of your energy to driving the car. For Ferrari, they've already set their stall out. They've decided that Fernando Alonso is the chosen one in the battle for this championship.
Fernando is faster than you. Sorry.
For McLaren, it's a much more difficult decision. Both their drivers have won world championships. Neither one of them wants to play second fiddle. The question is, just how long can the love-in really last?
Down towards the first corner. Hamilton's got the inside line of retakes, and Hamilton's back in front.
The greatest pressure is on Red Bull. They've had the fastest car all season. Two drivers hungry to win their first world championship. And as we saw earlier in the season, neither one is prepared to give an inch.
Oh, did it come together? What was going on there?
They've thrown it away.
It's unlikely we're going to see a repeat of Hockenheim, especially between McLaren and Red Bull, as both their drivers have a chance of winning this championship. Should one of them drop out of the race for the championship, however, then I think it's completely fair that the team put all the resources behind the lead driver.
And we'll hear from Mark Webber very shortly, who tells us that the time is getting close when these teams will have to make a big decision. And I'm glad that I'm the man that doesn't have to make this decision, but I'm here with two men who will at some point. We find out in a moment. Martin Whitmarsh and Christian Horner. So, Christian, are you dreading when you have to drag your drivers into a meeting and say, look, I'm afraid we're going to back your teammate?
I'm not. I think what's not clear to us is whether it's actually allowed or isn't allowed at the moment, though. I mean, I think that's a question that still needs to be resolved. I think the most important thing moving forward is, you know, there is transparency on this subject, that either team orders are banned and we get rid of them and it's transparent to the fans and the teams, or they remain and they're rigorously enforced. To have this halfway house is very difficult.
Well, we do know that it's illegal to swap your cars on track, but the worst punishment for that is $100,000, and you have to decide whether it's worth that punishment to win you the world title at some point. But it's certainly not illegal to back a driver within a team. We saw it at Silverstone when you told us that you gave Sebastian the new front wing as a championship decision. So you're obviously not averse to making these decisions based on the championship, are you?
I mean, difficult decisions have to be made, you know, every day. But I think that, you know, for us, we've got two drivers that are competing for this world championship. We'll continue to support both of them, you know, absolutely equally and fairly until it becomes, or a situation arises where either one of them's neither mathematically or practically possible to win it. And at that point, then obviously the team's interests and getting the best team result is obviously what everybody will be focused on.
It's still a hard decision, though, Martin, particularly if you've got two recent world champions, both of the same nationality in your team, because it basically becomes an issue of national pride, doesn't it?
Well, as you say, I think we've got two drivers that want to win this year's World Championship. I think, you know, you can go into a season saying we will give every driver equal opportunity. Inevitably, as Christian just said, there will be decisions you have to take which people may or may not interpret as having favoured one or the other. And I think, you know, we have to have the clarity. The fact is, if you say to your drivers, don't hit each other at the first corner, is that a team order or not? I think it's quite a reasonable thing to tell your drivers. If you tell them conserve your tyres, conserve fuel, then again, I think that's reasonable. if you blatantly swap their position and then cover up, then I think that's uncomfortable for all of us that witness it. It's uncomfortable for the sport. So I think that's why we've really got to draw, a continuum and say, where is the line? How far you are able to go? And we haven't had that clarity so far this year.
But looking ahead to the rest of the season, if we got to a position where Jenson Button, for example, could realistic or mathematically win the world title, but realistically couldn't win the world title, you would have to back Lewis Hamilton, wouldn't you? Because your sponsors, and they're all over your shirt, have paid for the chance to become world champions.
Well, but again, I think it's a question of how we run our team. And you can go back to 2007. Had we marginally favoured either of our drivers, we would have won a world championship. We didn't, and some people would say we were completely wrong to have done that. But I think the fact that Jenson joined our team is because he believed he'd get a fair crack of the whip, and therefore we owe it to him. Give him every opportunity to win a world championship, and that's what we're going to try and do.
OK, let's talk about this weekend. We all know about these new bodywork tests that really were brought in because everyone thought your car was doing naughty things, and you seem to still have an advantage over the rest of the field. Is that satisfying?
Yeah, no, I mean, there's been a lot of interest. I mean, Martin's really interested in our wings. It seems, you happy with them this weekend, Martin?
I haven't looked at them this weekend. I look a bit too quick, actually, Christian, for me.
That's the problem.
I think they've been taken off because they're too quick.
But no, we're happy that the car, meets all the compliance tests and so on, and it's performing pretty well here. The drivers are relatively happy, but it's going to be a tough qualifying session this afternoon.
And perhaps you need to shift your focus slightly away from Red Bull now and towards Ferrari, because they've scored more points than any other team in the last 4 races. They come in nice and fast, and we know you've all got World Championship quality drivers, so it becomes a development race, and Ferrari are getting it right at the moment, aren't they?
I think you've got to say Fernando looks very quick here, so I think we know that. I think on balance, so far on the evidence, I think Red Bull are the team to try and beat here. But we've got to try and, every single race, try and maximise our point, make the best of what we've got, race well, and it's a long race, so a lot of things can happen. It's not just about having the quickest car, but it helps, of course.
And so just to clarify, we can talk about rules and regulations and stipulations and fines, but if you got to a position where you needed to back one driver to win the title, you would have to do that.
But only if one of the drivers was clearly out of contention. Obviously, both drivers race for the team to get the team the best result. But both of the drivers are still very much in this World Championship. 125 points on the board is way, way too early to be, putting all your backing behind one driver.
OK, well, good luck with that decision. I think I'd rather be talking about it than doing it. But good luck this weekend. Thanks very much to the both of you. And it's very interesting, isn't it, seeing 2 team principals standing there and actually, they're conversing as I walk away. So, people think that guys don't get on very well in Formula One. I can tell you that they do really, although there's a lot of pressure on both of those 2 guys at the moment, and this is why there's plenty of pressure on Martin Whitmarsh. 1998 was the last time they won their 8th and last Constructors' World Championship, and to be frank, with a team that spends as much money and has as much talent and quality as McLaren, that's just not good enough. Therefore, they are working super hard at the moment to improve their racing car as things stand, and this is their racing car. Oh, you're there, Matt. Sorry, I wasn't sure where you were going to be. I really want to show you the front wing, actually, because if you're wondering how hard these teams are working and what they're doing to make these cars as fast as possible, have a look at this. All of this is brand new on the McLaren. They've worked really hard since the last race in Monza to make sure that they have got the edge over the rest. And as we've seen so far this weekend, for the 5 fastest guys, it's very close and tight. Let's just walk this way so we get away from the noise of that engine, guys, and I want to head towards Renault anyway, eventually. They both enjoyed talking about rules and regulations. Eddie, just give us the true reality of what life is like in a team when you're having to make a decision about one driver over another.
Well, if I may, could I just change the story?
Go on.
One interesting part there, and I think full marks to Christian Horner, of all the places where a flexible front wing shouldn't work is in a slow-speed track like here. The best advantage would be on a big open track like Silverstone. So taking that into consideration, they are so dominant here, you'd have to say, I think, that a lot of these teams, I mean, it's just sour grapes. For me, Red Bull have got it right, and they're just very quick, and they can't match the others. On the other aspect, I think you're better off asking David what he thinks about that.
Go on then, talk to us. Smoke and mirrors is what it's all about.
Well, I think it's distraction techniques, and the fact that Martin Whitmarsh said there he hadn't actually looked at the wing this weekend. I'd be surprised if he'd looked at the wing any point during this season, but he'll get little tidbits from his engineers, and he'll just lob in these distraction techniques at certain points to the FIA. This is not just about what happens out on track. The battle is there even before they get to the racetrack.
Talk about that, because your big rival was Mika Häkkinen. What was life like sharing a team with him? Give us a little story about that.
Well, bottom line is Mika was just more complete than I was as a driver. But putting that to one side and the fact I've got that knowledge now, at the time, I believed, of course, that I had the ability to beat him on track, and therefore you wanted every single advantage you possibly could get from the team. Now, the engines can never be exactly the same. The wings can never be exactly the same. You know, even though the tolerances in Formula One are fantastically small, there are differences. And you work very hard behind the scenes to try and make sure you do all the best bits on your car. And if you feel that, you know, something's being given a psychological advantage in some way, then it starts to eat away at you. So it's always very important to get the edge on your teammate. And that's why the teammates largely don't really get along whilst they're racing with each other. Afterwards, if they were good guys, then they'll maybe have a relationship.
Well, let's slowly walk down this way towards Renault, and actually it's that we're outside Ferrari, because this is a team that has made the decision about which driver to back, Eddie, and that could be what makes the decision between winning and not winning a world title for Ferrari.
It may fly in the face of the rules and the regulations, but they may have got it this right. They have backed Alonso. And of course, Alonso winning the last race, he's right there. I mean, really, he looks quick here as well. I think Alonso could be a dark horse in all of this, because 2 races ago he wasn't being considered. We knew about what was going to happen in Paris, whether he was going to lose points or not. As it happened, it went in his favour. And he's really up for this. He knows he's got the full backing of the team, and he probably at this stage knows that he's got Fernando, or he's got Massa there pushing hard for him, and that is psychologically a huge boost.
Psychologically damaging, I guess, is walking out here and feeling the heat for these drivers. How hard is it in this kind of humidity?
This was one of the hardest races that I ever did. You know, after the race in 2008, my feet were swollen, my ankles were swollen, because you were pushing so hard against the footrest to try and hold yourself in position. Street circuits, emotionally, psychologically, are so much more difficult than a normal road course. Even though Bruno mentioned the G-forces are not there, but you just got to have your wits about you, because one small mistake, you clip a barrier. And obviously on the more open road circuits, you don't have that issue. You know, you've got grass, you've got runoff areas. So, you know, what was very telling, you had Fernando Alonso sitting down immediately after he got out of the car in morning's practice. I was in Mercedes earlier, and I saw Michael walk in. He was the guy that never sweated during his first career, looking like he had broken sweat.
Did that make you feel good?
Well, I just wish he sweated a bit more when I was racing him.
Yeah, okay. Even Michael Schumacher is fallible, I suppose. Matt, just take a look to your right and you can see where we are, outside Renault. And there's lots of smiley faces and happy people there, because Renault have had a pretty good record here. 2 races, 1 win, 1 podium. But that only tells part of their Singapore story. Of course, they came here 2 years ago and deceived the world. 12 months ago, they took their punishment. What will this year bring?
Singapore is the scene of so much drama for Renault. 2008, Piquet crashed according to orders.
Something was broken. We just needed to understand why.
2009, sponsors were ditching the team.
Well, it's certainly better than it was at the depths of the end of last season.
2010 signalled the start of a new era. And back in the Singapore darkness, things are finally looking bright for the team.
Desperate and appalling though last year's performance was by the end of the season, there's still an awful lot of things in the team that are really quite good. And so turning it from that to what we have now is a relatively small number of things, but very important things.
Eric Boullier stepped into Flavio Briatore's role. Renault went from the infamous to the unknown.
Eric and Gerard give me free hands, or free card, let's say, to build a team around me. Because on my own it would have been very difficult. I have no experience in F1. I'm not enough in the paddock. I'm clearly a rookie. In the past history of this team, they won 4 times the Constructor Championship. And I knew there was a lot of competencies there.
Robert Kubica arrived at Renault with only 1 win to his name, but carrying a big reputation. His aim was to direct the team back to success.
The car is improving, although it's not easy to catch the top teams because they are working really hard. I think we can be happy of what we are doing this year, and of course we will try more and more.
Everyone likes being in a team when things are week by week improving, because you're seeing the reward for your effort.
Robert is clearly now positioning himself as a very, very top driver. He's not doing any mistakes. He's very committed to the team, and he put actually the team itself all together around him to push further.
It was very important from beginning to acclimatize yourself, to get into the team well, because it was very important for us to start working straight away in the right direction, in the harmony.
Vitaly Petrov came into the season with no F1 experience and was seen to be a commercial signing. Whilst he's scored points this season, his performance has been mixed.
Vitaly is a true rookie. I mean, he never tested a Formula 1 car before last February, and he's still in a learning curve. I'm pretty sure by the end of the season he will show us his raw talent developing.
Here I'm feeling like at home. People help me, working with me, so it's like, you know, small family for me. And the bosses like Rick and Gerard and all the guys, it's really helped me. They don't push me hard and they understand a lot of things.
So you say you feel at home at Renault. Is there a danger that you might lose your home for next season?
Why am I to lose? No, I think we still...
Because a lot of people talk about things, but you're the person who knows. What's the situation?
I can't really say what is it now situation. What I know is I just do my job. And I hope it will be everything fine, but I'm not a boss. I can't say to you, I want to stay, and I stay.
We clearly need a second driver strong enough to bring points home every weekend, and this is up to Vitaly to show us he can do the job and he will stay with us. If not, we will obviously have to look some different scenarios.
Do you see this as a new Renault, a reinvigorated Renault? How different is this in your eyes? Is this a new rebirth?
I don't see it like a new Renault. It's the same team, same name, same branding, and definitely it's not a new Renault, it's a new era.
And it's a new era that at the moment is certainly looking up. And look how different Formula One is to your road cars. I imagine the bodywork isn't sitting on the floor of the garage just before you head off for a little trip to the shops. Let's talk about Robert Kubica, though. Is his timing impeccable to turn up at a team that just so happened to have an incredible turnaround in fortune on the track? Or has he been instrumental in that turnaround?
Well, I think a combination of both. In truth, BMW went out of business by the time they made that call. All the top drives that you'd expect Robert to be going for, McLarens, Red Bulls, Ferraris, were taken. So he came back to where he started his career. He was a Renault young driver, and in many ways he's slotted in there. He feels comfortable, he trusts in the team. He's a great driver, there's no question about it. And, he's won one Grand Prix already, but he'll be a multiple Grand Prix winner in the future, I'm sure, if he gets the right car behind him.
Neddy, if we have a look at the faces behind us and the guys working away, plenty of them are the same faces that we saw in the team previously. So what has changed, do you think, under the skin of Renault?
I think Eric is right. It is a completely new era. Gone are the days we don't have to see Flavio anymore, we don't see Pat Simmons. They were the linchpin of what we remember of the Renault and indeed the Benetton days. Now you have Eric, who spoke to us on the show just now, and of course you've got new owners. It's a private equity firm that owned this company alongside Renault, and it's a new transition. Jordan had that in itself, and it's no bad thing. So I think they will invest money and see it happen. There is one common denominator here, and that's Bob Bell. He was with me, he was with McLaren. He's a hugely influential guy, and I think he was the catalyst in saving this team a year ago.
Actually, I should just correct one thing in there. Renault actually have no stake in this team at all now. So the company you mentioned own this 100%. So in actual fact, Renault are getting a gift with all the branding.
And it's
on
not
the
a
car.
bad gift, is it, the way they drive it?
Fantastic gift, you know, they've got the engine in the back, but they don't put any money into the team.
Let's make our way down here, because it's going to get louder there. I can hear that an engine is about to roar up. Just one quick mention of Vitaly Petrov. We talked about a new team. It's a new approach to bring someone in who made his name in Lada racing. How do you think he's got on in his first year in F1, and should he stay?
I think he's an exciting driver. You know, we've seen him get stuck in. He's not scared to have a go. Yes, he's made mistakes. He doesn't have a karting background. He actually started ice racing in Moscow. We went there at the beginning of the year, and you know what? Ice racing is very challenging, of course, but it's not Grand Prix racing. So I think he deserves a second year. But the question is, what do Renault feel?
Okay, we'll wait and see. They certainly like the look of Robert Kubica, and he loves a street circuit. Put him near a wall, and he's very happy indeed. So we'll find out how he gets on today. But this team will be keen to pick up a win in 2011, and they will get 20 opportunities, because it's been announced that next year will be the biggest ever year for Formula One. 20 races around the world, and look at the date of October the 30th, 2011. A significant date for one city and one driver, looking to be the centre of attention that weekend.
My grandmother actually comes from this village originally. She was born in this village. This circuit's part of the village of Dunkor district. The village is over there. This is the street here in front of us. See where that jeep's parked.
It seems so strange just to see this strip of tarmac in the midst of a muddy monsoon.
No, we're stuck. Houston, we might have a problem here.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you. Here we go. Come on, Karun. Oh, hold on! And that is how you get on to the circuit. Like that. But there are a lot of people here, but there is also a lot of work to be done, isn't there? I mean, I'm standing here now thinking, in October, are they going to be ready for a Grand Prix next year?
But if we look here, I mean, the foundation work for a lot of the circuit has been done. They've had to move a lot of earth to create the undulations that they wanted in the circuit. And it's made it more interesting as a layout, you know, to have it up and down. As drivers, we do enjoy that. So you're going to jump this bit, yeah?
Yeah. Holding on. Oh, it's a pass! That was
Was that a save or what?
We were so good at it.
You can see it there, turn 1, where it goes downhill.
Hold on, is that not going straight into a huge puddle then?
At the moment,
Is that the so the drivers start off a hard right into the lagoon. So if the plan comes together for you, I'll be up here clapping and cheering the Indian driver racing around the Indian circuit. You'll be giving it a wave as you come around the hairpin.
Okay, I'll wave at you.
Yeah, that'd be lovely.
While you're standing on the drainage pipe, yeah?
Is that what that is?
That is a drainage.
I don't want to fall in there, do I? How are plans coming on for next year? Because, you know, when you come here and you stand here and you think this is the home of the Indian Grand Prix, for you not to be racing here would be a real regret, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but you know, to be the first Indian driver at your home Grand Prix, it'll be very special for sure. And you know, if it doesn't happen next year, and if I'm not here next year, it's not the end of the world, but it'll be you know, it'll be disappointing.
Here we are on the pit straight.
Yeah.
That is what this is, by the way. This is the pit straight, or it will be when it's finished. Why did India want Formula One?
I mean, why not? I mean, F1 it's apart from the Olympics, Football World Cup, you know, it's right up there, you know, in terms of prestige as a world championship.
Thank you very much. The last thing we want is a brick on the head, is it? How's that looking? He's got a very small head, hasn't he? So technically, this is the first garage. This could be the 2010 Formula One World Champions garage.
Could be.
Come the Indian Grand Prix. I think it might look a little different by then.
Yeah, I'd hope so.
I mean, a lot of people, you know, will create an issue with the fact that Formula One is coming to a country that's got enough issues of its own to solve before it starts getting involved. But you only have to look at the amount of jobs that are being created.
Yeah, I mean, you think of thousands of jobs by the end of this project. You know, at the moment, I think there's over 2,000 people.
Now, I'm not saying they're behind, but there is a lot to do. So I was thinking, how nice would it be to give them a bit of a hand? There you go. Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, Karun, thank you so much for the tour around the whole circuit and for the impressive driving skills. I just hope that, you know, come next year, you're here to enjoy it as a driver rather than a spectator.
I'd love to be here. I think, you know, there's so much interest, so many people already. You know, when they announced the date on the calendar, I was on the phone for like 6 or 7 hours.
And the great thing is, you know about the sneaky little water feature.
Yeah.
It's just after turn 1.
I know where
Don't tell any other driver about it.
I know where to hold my breath.
Exactly. You'll be in and out. And Karun Chandok is with us here in the pit lane. Thank you very much for the guided tour. Delhi has taken a real battering in the past couple of weeks. Do you think that's added the pressure to the circuit organisers to make this a job well done?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think Delhi's definitely under the spotlight with the Commonwealth Games. I know you guys are covering it, and it's not been good. Let's, you know, we could be perfectly honest about it. But it's different people. You know, that's a government project. It's multiple venues, etc. This is a completely different set of people. And, you know, it's the only common factor is it's in the same city. So it's a different thing altogether.
Karun, India. We see what's happening here, Singapore, and it's a niche. It's absolutely fascinating and fantastic. Can India do the same? Can it chisel out some major race for themselves?
I think it's difficult to replicate this place, isn't it? I mean, Singapore and Abu Dhabi, I'd be amazed if we go anywhere else in the next few years that can't copy it. In all honesty, I don't think so. I think, you know, having the first night race in Abu Dhabi has just gone so onto another level. It's not going to be that, but I don't think it needs to be. You know, I think, Jake, you know, you could say it's, you know, India is a different country altogether. Culturally, it's completely different. We had to stop for cows as
We had
were
fun
entering
though,
the
didn't we?
circuit.
We didn't mind.
The food was good though. You know, you didn't get deli belly.
I was okay, just about.
One thing that you mentioned there, which if I heard correctly, which is a little bit strange, you said that the difference between this project and the Commonwealth Games is that Commonwealth Games is a government project, so that's why it's not working. That doesn't really put your government in a good light.
No, I mean, everything happens slower, doesn't it? With the government, it's such a big organisation, so many ministers, so many departments. It's like a government, it's a public company, it's a private company. You know, a private company, the family, the JP Group is a family-run business. It's a father with 3 brothers, or 3 sons rather, I should say. So all the decisions are done at the dinner table. It's a bit easier than in Parliament.
So in Singapore, we have huge delegation of Indians, and so there's obviously a huge interest in the sport. 80% of the crowd here are Indian people. I don't know, but the question, if you could answer that, but also this other one I'm intrigued about. We know your teammate Yamamoto is not driving. Now I want to know, is he really sick, or is the bank balance, did the check not arrive? And maybe you can tell us.
I'll tell you what, Eddie, I saw Hockenheim, and you're mega at going and finding out team principals, dragging them by the arm and asking, why don't you go and have a go now?
No, I'm asking you. You're the inside track. We would like to know the story. Come on, you can tell us.
I have no idea. I haven't spoken to Sakon, so I don't know if he's been sitting on the toilet or not. So I have no idea.
And you can tell us why you're not in the car, though. You're loyally wearing your Hispania Racing T-shirt, but you're not getting a chance.
I mean, again, as I've said to you guys again and again, it's a team decision, and you know, I'm here in my team kit, ready to go whenever I'm asked to drive the car.
Okay, hang on in there. Good to chat, and thank you very much once again for the tour. It was great fun. So, if the Delhi organisers are watching the Grand Prix this weekend, they might just get slightly nervous, I think. Talk about putting on a good show. It's an amazing place. It's also unforgiving, as is the humidity. Look at that, 80% humidity out here. To be honest, it feels like you're standing in a shower when you're standing in the pit lane. And one man who will hope to make the most of these rather tricky conditions is Mark Webber. He's raced here twice. He's yet to finish a Grand Prix. And he knows he can't do that again this year, because this might be his only crack at the world title.
In the future, people will remember only the world champion, not who finished second and third. I know what I need to do. The talking has to be done on the track. It's exciting. I feel ready to go at each event. Very happy with how the season's gone for me.
And how much are you learning about yourself and your mental strength, being in a position that you've never experienced before?
Quite a bit. Mum saw me yesterday and she said, "Oh, I've never seen you so relaxed," and and so Mum was,
That's good. So you've got the sign of approval from Mum. That's a good thing.
I think, as you said, when you've had some strong races, strong events, you're not here by mistake.
And some tough times as well, actually.
Yeah, we've had a few hurdles along the way, but I think that's inevitable. The Valencia crash was a tough one.
Oh no! Mark Webber's gone right up there. What an impact that was.
It was important to come back from that and win straight away in Silverstone, which we did.
There is the checkered flag for Mark Webber. Who's the number one now at Red Bull?
Fantastic, guys. Not bad for a number 2 driver. Cheers.
You're 34 years old. It is a huge opportunity for you. Sebastian might get a few more opportunities. Have you sort of looked across the garage at any point and thought, come on, son, look, you're going to have another chance to do this. This could be it for me?
No. It'll be very rewarding for me looking back. I think, reminiscing, saying that, you gave, maybe, a reasonable driver like Sebastian a pretty hard time when he was driving, not at his peak, but arguably in terms of at his bravest, if you like, in terms of a youngster. So yes, okay, I would like to be 24 in this opportunity again, but I'm not. But I realise that I've got to put my best foot forward and give it everything I've got now, and have no real regrets looking back and saying, well, I should have done this, I should have done that, to make the most of the opportunity I have now, which is the special.
But you do have to fight your corner sometimes, even within a team, don't you?
I think it's inevitable in any top-line sport that at some stage there's going to be a point where you have to, come forward and make your position felt. And it's very, very hard to that when you're not performing.
And here comes Mark Webber. Vettel was on pole, but it's Mark Webber winning then. And he now leads the World Championship, the winner of the Hungarian Grand Prix.
If you're doing the business, that's the most important negotiation tool you have.
Do you want it to be a fair battle within the team, or are you putting pressure on the team to back the man in the lead?
It's a pretty tricky one, that. I think you could sit here and say, well, I'll shoulder it, have a crack, and do it all on my own, right up to the last point. You know, if I've got, you know, a 24-point lead into the last race over Seb and Fernando's there, you know, what position does the team take? Seb could still win the championship, but obviously the odds are massively against him. So what do you do? And we're a long way off that point. Let's be honest. But it
probably not too far.
No,
a race or two.
Exactly, a race or two. Things can change. So it's something that you definitely need to sit down with the team with and say, okay, what collectively, how would we think is best to do this?
Because the regret for you would be if you didn't lobby the team to back you, and you missed out on the title by the smallest of margins, you'd spend the rest of your life regretting.
Without question, you would do if it come down to that. But also, right down inside, you know that you gave everything you did. You drove out of your skin all year. You did what you could. There's a massive difference between world champion and second.
And with the prize so great, you're happy to be ruthless, maybe a little bit selfish, to make sure that it comes your way?
I'll say yes.
And that, Eddie, tells us all we need to know.
Full marks to Mark. He's hugely honest. That's why he's become so popular, and that's why he's the people's favourite to win this championship. But he knows as well as we all know, these guys would kill each other virtually to get in front of them to win a championship. David was talking about Hakkinen in his day. They both lived in Nice at the same time. They should have travelled together. They never did. They'd rather jump in each other's planes or whoever's planes, whatever it is. They never travelled. He knows that.
Yeah, actually, Monaco is where we live rather than Nice. But no, we would take off in our planes, we'd land at a venue, get picked up separately by Mercedes, go to the track, debrief, do the whole weekend, travel home again in our separate planes and arrive back in Monaco. And we would never do anything together because ultimately you were trying to beat each other. And we were teammates for 7 years, and we have a great relationship now, but at the time it's too intense. You don't want anything going to your teammate that can give an advantage.
And when we spoke to Martin Whitmarsh and Christian Horner earlier, they kept on talking about the team. Do the drivers care about the team?
Bottom line is, drivers, they sign this beautiful marriage contract, but the divorce papers are put there to one side because they will divorce from the team at some point. And that point may be when a new car or a better team is available, they'll be there like a shot. You know, you talk about loyalty, but this is sport. You have to win, and that means putting yourself in the best situation you possibly can. And I think they're very loyal people off track, but on track, they're ruthless.
Let's never forget, from a team's perspective and a team principle, drivers are employees. They are disposable, and they'd always be disposable. Some people may not like what I'm saying, but that is a fact. The team is the people that are still here. The Ferraris, the Williamses, the McLarens, but drivers come and go. They are, I'm not saying necessarily the pawns in the story, but they're not as big as they are made out to be, or as they try to be.
Well,
is that fair?
You at one point had lots of drivers on your books with your management company. They were just commodities that you traded, didn't you?
Well, it's a trading business, isn't it? You're in the business, you have a spreadsheet. Where can I earn the income? It goes up and it goes down, and you want to see that there's a return in the end of the day. You are there for the staff, for the people, for the sponsors, the people who have backed you. They're not backing the driver.
What's the most you ever sold a driver for?
Never you mind. That is a private matter between me and my bank manager.
Or between anyone that watched the F1 forum after the last race in Monza, maybe.
He said 3 million.
That Eddie Irvine never. He can't lie straight in bed. How could you expect him to tell a true story?
Oh, very good. OK, well, which of the disposable commodities is going to pick up pole position here today? Whoever does manage to bag it, it's not easy. Here's a quick guided tour, courtesy of Martin Brundle.
Let's take a look at the track for this third Singapore Grand Prix. It's 3.15 miles in length. We're down at turn 1. It's a long pit straight up to 180 miles an hour before one of 16 very heavy braking zones on this 23 corner lap. So 180 down to just 60 over this curb. Now the pit lane exit feeds into the exit of turn 1. As ever, it's very difficult to get an elegant re-entry onto the racetrack. Nico Rosberg bumped the crosshair last year, cost him dearly as he was coming out of the pits too quickly. It's very hard on brakes around here. Over 1/5 or 20% of the lap is spent on the brake pedal, and this is where we saw Mark Webber of Red Bull having a total brake failure. Negotiate turn 1, turns 2 and 3 follow quickly, a little kink in 4, Another fast right-hander in 5, and then a very long straight down to a bumpy braking zone to turn 7. Turn 7 is the big overtaking spot. We've seen lots of action here, approached at close to 200 miles an hour between the wall. Heavy braking, and this is where they try to take advantage. It's a wide zone. Those 2 curbs delineate the racetrack. Go over them and take advantage, and you'll get penalised. After this turn 7, there's a couple of block changes, a right and a left, before another long straight down to the difficult turn 10 chicane. The turn 10 chicane is a seriously difficult piece of racetrack. Approach down the long straight at about 180 miles an hour. Remember, the driver is effectively sitting on the ground, and all he's looking for as he's bouncing along is that tiny patch of day-glow orange for the high curb. Then he has to thread the car through this wow, I'll get you this time. You all right, mate? Get it all wrong, and straight ahead, there's very little runoff. We're moving towards the end of the lap now, and it's tight and technical. This is the legendary turn 17, where young Piquet put the Renault in the wall. Now, you may have noticed the track surface is wet. It may not be a wet Grand Prix, but it's rained every day, and that means any rubber that goes down from all of the cars on the track is getting washed away. It's going to be tough to set the cars up from a handling point of view and controlling brake temperatures. It's 1 3/4 minutes of pure action. It's a brilliant street circuit.
Well, that wheel is already spinning. This is a live shot because the car's wheels will be rolling as well in less than 10 minutes' time, qualifying getting nice and close. And if you've got a spare £10,000, then why not fly out here, because that's what it will cost you to watch tomorrow's Grand Prix, and one of the pods on that wheel. Not cheap, eh, but you do get dinner included in that. We spoke to Mark Webber. He said he's nice and relaxed, and I think we saw a great example of just how relaxed he is there, if slightly dangerous as well.
Mark Webber, since Turkey, he has been a revelation. He has changed everything in that team to his favour. That's my view. And as well as that, he has endeared the public. We've already spoken about that. He is so at ease with himself. He's got his parents here. And he thinks that he can finish. If he finishes the next 5 races on the podium, for sure he's going to be crowned world champion. And I think there will be very few people who would not want that to happen, apart from the other drivers, of course.
Yes, of course. Martin Bundle mentioned there are plenty of corners around this track, but it's one corner, or one small complex in particular, that's grabbed everybody's attention. And Adrian Sutil this weekend has already shown us exactly how to get this wrong, hasn't he?
Well, indeed, here we see him just entering the chicane. It's a little bit wide on the left-hander. Look at that, launched up into the air. Now, Lewis Hamilton has said this is the worst corner in Formula One, and it's such a shame. And again, just joined here an in-car. So he arrived at 180 miles an hour, misses slightly the apex and turn in, and look at this, straight over that orange curb, which is there to try and keep the car on the other side. It's not designed to fly, and when it lands, it breaks the front suspension. But just coming back to, well, here's an example of how to do it properly. Look at that, clip, 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 wow. And out you go. That car is absolutely nailed, and that's Sebastian Vettel we're joining on board, and he's definitely the pace setter, so it'll be interesting to see what he can achieve in qualifying. But just to finish on what I said about Lewis saying that's the worst corner in Formula One, it's such a shame that they haven't been able to come up with a better solution, because the rest of the track is such a great challenge. But the problem with that corner is you arrive at such high speed and it's just flat, it just all blends into itself. So you know there's a chicane there, but you don't see it until after you start braking. Right. And that's why it's so difficult. We saw Raikkonen in the wall there a couple of years ago, and definitely there'll be an incident at some point during the weekend. And
it's never good to see anything where a car is launched into the air. Eddie, we're just standing outside Ferrari here. We've spoken a lot about Red Bull and McLaren, but Ferrari are looking quick this weekend, and as I mentioned to the other 2 team principals, they are the team to beat at the moment in Formula One, actually.
The team to beat, because they have looked at the rules, the regulations, and they've interpreted it in a different light. They've got the fine, which was $100,000, which was the fine, and we won't talk about that, but they have chosen Alonso as to be the lead man. All the rest of them are jockeying for position. They're ahead of the posse at the moment, in my view. Alonso is a big threat to, I think, possibly the rest of the other teams.
As this season rolls on, that's looking rather cheap, isn't it? $100,000 to give Alonso those extra points?
Absolutely. I was just laughing to myself. EJ says 100,000, but we'll not mention that. But he'll mention it if you don't want to
talk about
But I
it.
mention it because it was a paltry amount of money for what actually happened, and still people are aghast in this paddock as to why the points, the 7 points that he got, and he got by an illegal manner, weren't taken. Most people can't quite cope with that.
Yes, it's only $100,000 being a small amount when it's in F1 terms, of course. Right, we'll let these two scrap here a bit more while the drivers start to bicker out on the circuit, because it is time for the first part of qualifying. The aim, not to have a night to forget in the first part of qualifying. It's very nearly 10 o'clock in the evening here, and 7 drivers are about to be eliminated. Let's find out who, in the company of Martin Brundle and Jonathan Ledyard. It's time for the first part of qualifying for the Singapore Grand Prix.